Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are listening to us from. Welcome to Footprints, a podcast that shares the stories of our elders, their lessons, their struggles, their triumphs, and their wisdom to those that are upcoming and transitioning into where our elders are right now. Today, our guest is Dr. Ian Clarke, who is also called Busulwa, who we also learned has a pet name. He is called Akiki. So which one should I call you?
You can call me Ian. but Busulwa is the one that people shout at me all the time.
Oh, really?
If I'm out in the street or whatever, then people call me Busulwa.
So do tell us how did you get the name Busulwa?
Busulwa, it was that one a long time ago. We came to Uganda 36 years ago now.
And for listeners who don't know who you are, came to Uganda from where?
Ireland, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we were in Luweero, deep out in the Luweero Triangle, as it was called then. And I was working for Church Missionary Society. And my boss was actually the Bishop of Namirembe there, because the Namirembe diocese at that stage included all of Luweero. So at one stage we had I would call it a pastoral visit from the bishop and his entourage. I remember him arriving, we stayed in a part of an old farmhouse out there, and he arrived in this old Land Rover and his entourage. Bishops don't travel alone. No. And then he said, "No, you're deep now in the village here. You have to have a Ugandan name." So he thumbed through his little book. I don't know how he needed to do that. Decided that I was going to be Luke Busulwa, the physician of the Kobe clan, and Robbie was going to be Nakito from the Spotted Monkey clan. I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was like probably 35 years ago.
Wow.
And then he sadly subsequently died.
So Ian, tell us a bit about yourself. Where does your story begin? How far back do you want to go? But tell us a bit about yourself.
I was born at a very early age.
Yeah, you were born at a very early age.
I've always wanted to say that. You were
born at a very early age. That's so funny.
Anyway, the first part of my life was in Ireland, and specifically Northern Ireland, where I was studying medicine and then was a general practitioner, so practicing family medicine.
Why medicine? What made you do medicine?
I think I had two interests. One was farming, because I came from a farm and my father had died when I was 9 years old. So I was actually still running the farm, and then I was interested. I seemed to be a more talent in the biological sciences, so then I went then toward medicine. And of the two, which I loved, I liked both of them, but medicine's a lot more portable. I wouldn't, if I had done farming, I'd still be in, I'd never have left Northern Ireland. Yeah, so I did medicine, and then I went into family practice. And then some years into that, I heard about HIV, and then it was about Uganda, and I felt, like as a doctor, it was a kind of a shocking disease where people lost their immunity and then died from all sorts of opportunistic infections. And then subsequent to that, we came out to visit Uganda. I came with a church group, and that visit, which was in 1987, first time I came to Uganda, was really quite shocking for me, because the Ugandans were just struggling out of the war at that time, which had finished in 86. Yes. So everything was broken down, and the roads were in fact broken down. The hospitals, I went to Rubaga Hospital. I worked actually with the famous Stephen Watiti, who's still there. He's about my age, actually a little older, I think. And I was really in awe of what Stephen was doing with the limited facilities he had available in Rubaga Hospital, and also the needs. So subsequently, this gentleman took us to Luweero for a visit, because I didn't know the history of Uganda at that point. And so we went out to Luweero, and then at that stage, 1987, of course, there was loads of skulls and bones, and sometimes lying on the ground, but more usually sort of collected up and put on a vegetable stand So I remember one place where they had cabbages in one stand and skulls in the next stand. So it was a bit macabre. But people were it was a very depressed area at that stage. So when I came back, I said, we need to go. I just came for a visit, and then I got seeing the post-war side and the HIV and TB and all that. So I just, when I went home, my wife said, so what did you think? And I said, we got to go back out there. So we got sponsorship from the Church Missionary Society Ireland, and they were working at Mengo Hospital at that time. So strong links with CMS and the Church of Uganda. So we got, it was really excellent because we got sponsorship from them. That sponsorship traced back to the Irish government who actually underwrote our expenses. And we came out initially for a consignment of 2 years. And then the 2 years became 6 years really, because we got involved in starting a clinic, which became a hospital. We were much at the epicenter of HIV at that time. There was so many. We lost not only many patients, but staff members, colleagues, friends to HIV. It was really terrible. And at the end of that time, I then got cancer myself. And we went back and had treatment, and as you say, I'm still here, so recovered. And then I did a master's in public health and in London, and then came back out again to start a clinic. I came and worked for a brief period with an institution called the Surgery, which used to be attached to the British High Commission. There was an old doctor called Gibbons, who's the old British doctor who'd been here during the time of Amin. And I worked with them for a bit, but it really wasn't for me because it was more of an expatriate practice. So then I started my own practice in Kampala Pentecostal Church building, and then that led to more clinics, and then a small hospital in Old Kampala, and then the purpose-built hospital in Luweero. So that journey was about 25 years. About eight years ago, I think, I sold the majority shareholding in the International Hospital in Luweero. I still have a shareholding actually, and I'm on the board. I sat on as chairman for a while. Then I thought it was time to transition. And somewhere during that time, I started International Health Science University, which then, when we delinked it from the hospital, became Clarke International University. And we also started a school, Clarke Junior School, and then started a farm, which is called Clarke Farm. So more diversification in the businesses in the last 8 years or so. And there's been transitions all along the way. Yeah.
And it seems from your journey, education has also been a very key thing for you. Tell me a bit about that.
So the sectors I've been involved in are obviously healthcare, but then healthcare brought education along because you mentioned you met Rose Nanyonga. So Rose started the first nursing school, and we developed the university from the nursing school, and there was a real need to get expertise in nursing at that time. That's many years ago. Then Rose went on and did her PhD at Yale and came back then as the Vice Chancellor of the university. So yeah, we've been involved in education for some time, but particularly in the health sciences. We're trying to broaden it now. We have broadened now. We're doing IT, business. I would like to do things like agriculture, very relevant. And then at the other end, my son, Sean, who's, he went, after he was educated in Turi in Kenya, did his O-levels there. Then he did A-levels in the UK and went to university and did microbiology. And then subsequently did a postgraduate teaching diploma. And then he got married. He and his wife went out and taught in the Druze Mountains in Lebanon. And so he's a teacher. And then when he came back, then he worked some time in Bristol, and then he came back and joined me, working in NHK and running the clinics and stuff. So then he did an MBA, I think at Liverpool or something. So he has got, the very good experience in education in terms of having done his postgraduate diploma and having an MBA. So he really is the one who's pioneered the primary education, so in the school, which we hope to expand into more than one. Because in the education side, we're focused on in the school, the strapline for the school is inquire, discover, learn. And in the university, it's innovate and lead. So we're looking at education not so much as a didactic discipline where you just repeat what you get taught, but really teaching both children and university students to be lifelong learners. And also with the university, we say it's a values-based university, and that's actually what I was doing in the meeting prior. It was a public lecture, and I was talking about the sort of values that we inculcate as an institution, as compared to the kind of general societal values that we all absorb. If we talk about corruption in Uganda, then we are also a product of corruption in Uganda. There's no way to escape your society that you're in. You are influenced by it. And we live in a fairly disorderly society, but I was making the point that why don't we do things properly? You don't have to be holier than thou, but if you can, there's many things that it's going to be better for you to just be honest, to have some integrity, do the thing properly, don't cut corners, don't be influenced, don't say that the end justifies the means, just do it properly.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons that we've been in education trial, because Uganda's made up of Ugandans, obviously made up of people. It's, people talk about, it's a beautiful country, and it is, but, a beautiful country isn't anything without the people. And Ugandans themselves have very, very great potential, but unfortunately the background in the society is that the end justifies the means, and so if you can get what you want and you did have to cut some corners or take some money or give some money, then it's okay. So we'd like to kind of have at least the influence of saying it's not just what you've learned and what you know, but it's how you do it.
Yeah. Wow. And so talking or leaning into the issue of values, how have values led you as a leader? I'm not, how can I describe myself? I'm definitely highly motivated by having an impact on people in society. And so the kind of businesses that I do in education and health and in the agri sector as well, they're geared to have impact. If I wanted, of course I'd like to make money, but there may be other businesses that would be more lucrative, but they wouldn't have much of an impact on the society. So I feel like, obviously education has an impact, obviously health has an impact, and agribusiness, there's 3.7 million coffee farmers, there's 70% of the population are in rural areas. So I feel agriculture is a very important sector to be involved in. So I'm usually involved in stuff that I think can have impact. For myself, I came out as a missionary with CMS, and so that's broadly the mission. They call them mission partners then. We're partnering with which is true. I mean, my boss was the bishop. And my very good friend and almost my age mate is Zach Nirinji, who is also a bishop himself, but now retired or resigned. And we have discussions. We've had discussions about, Zach's opinion would be that this idea that the white man comes out to an African country and bestows largesse, even if you're bringing a clinic or a school or something, it's a very colonial type of thing, and I don't disagree with him at all. I think I was naive enough to just come out to because I felt I was going to be more purposeful and more useful as a doctor here. And then, but what's happened in the process of time, and even initially when we went to Luweero, we just got integrated into the community. So it's kind of, so Zach doesn't have a problem with that, where I became a Ugandan and became part of the society rather than I'm coming like to bestow on you something. So I think
my own values would be I can have a sense of purpose and a purposefulness in the things that I do in Uganda, which is a lot more than I had in Ireland. When I was in Ireland, I was, the job was very routine. I was running a business. I didn't have any, I was doing, in fact, one of the reasons that I wanted to come to Uganda was driven by that sort of sense of having a purpose. I'll not call it a higher purpose, because we all should have a purpose. And your purpose will vary depending on the stage of your life. But for me, being in Uganda was it helped some other previous episodes. I had done business before, I had been farming. It integrated into, I felt at home in Uganda, and Ugandans have been very, very welcoming to me. I mean, I can't get over the lack of racism, the lack of, you can understand with the past history, someone look at a white man and say, what are you doing here? But I really don't get it. So it's my home.
Yeah. No, we're glad that you call it home. And thinking back to your leadership over many, many years, what can you say is like your proudest moment as a leader? And what is one that you look back on with pain? Like, this was a low point.
No, I can look back at many moments of pain, certainly, that's for sure. Moments of failure. If I start with the pain moments, first of all, even when I worked in Luweero, and we were, running a very charitable hospital, there were so many moments when people died, when you wondered, what did I do wrong, or where was God in all this? And we were seeing people die around us like flies, and not just patients but also staff, because we were just height of the HIV epidemic. So that was a very painful time and very emotionally traumatic. But then I think one obvious failure was after I had been in politics. As mayor of Makindye, I thought, well, I built a base of support. And
you were my mayor.
Yes, I was mayor.
I remember that.
So then I stood for MP for Makindye East, and was roundly defeated by the key, actually, by the FTC. That stage. So that was a failure, and I learned from that I wouldn't go any further in politics, because the journey was party political, and I wasn't about to join the NRM or the FTC or NUP or whatever, and you needed to identify with one of those sides. So that was certainly a moment of failure. So I can describe myself as a failed politician.
I'd actually forgotten that you were mayor.
The mayor was okay. I was able to do stuff.
What are you most proud of during the time that you were mayor?
I did fix the drainage channels and the garbage and the potholes. So I did the basic stuff. I was more like I told you I did public health. So I was my public health was more in play rather than political thing. People have a funny idea of politics in Uganda. They think when you're in politics, you start to be politicking. So you've got to be involved in criticising the other party and being seen to protest, and then when you say, but you're supposed to do a job, especially in local government, you're supposed to ensure that the roads work and the drainage work, very, very basic stuff.
Yeah.
And yet the politicians don't think that's anything to do with them. Lord Mayor Lukwago's been there 15 years, hasn't done anything at all, and doesn't see that as his job. He sees that's for the executive director. But I would get involved with what they would call those technical people, the engineers and the tractor drivers and the guys who are shoveling the muck out of the drainage channels. And sometimes I'd be there directing the traffic if we were holding it up. And sometimes I loaned them my truck. I put some of my own resources into it. And I could go and say, not commandeer, but ask for the central people to give us a backhoe. I would have more influence than if I just left them alone. Yeah. So those parts of the job, they were very, very mundane, but in the end of the day, and one of the things I knew from that, which I've known all my life, if if you've a road that's full of potholes, you start with fixing one pothole. And then, eventually if you keep at it, you'll fix all the potholes. So by the time I finished, we'd fixed all the potholes in the county. But what happens here is you have a road full of potholes, people say, we don't have the resources. Well, yeah, you don't have the resources for the whole road, but fix the first quarter of it. And then when you get some, do a wee bit more. And that was my philosophy. I mean, I remember going to, talk to one of the engineers. Everything, I was like the ghost of Christmas past wandering around the corridors of City Hall because nothing happened at McKinley. It was all like a sort of powerless kind of thing. But when you went to City Hall and you talk to engineers and talk to various people, you sort of could get things done, lobbied for things, just generally became a pain. And so I said to this engineer, we need this road fixed. No, that road needs sectional repair, needs rebuilt, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I didn't get any help. So what I did was, I had a big truck at that time, a 10-ton truck, and the KCCA trucks were about 5 tons, 3 to 5 tons, small trucks. So we would go every once a week, we would go, and there was this hot mix, it's the tarmac but it was made somewhere. Then they'd come with 20 or 30 tons, and then we'd all come with our little trucks, and we would take back and fix a few potholes. So I started taking my big truck and the KCCA truck. So instead of taking, my 5 tons or something, I took like 15 tons. And I fixed the road that the guy said, it's going to be, this has to wait for this and that. You just get on and do it. And that road has been fine since I fixed it. It was a small part of it.
I remember now that during the time that you were mayor, I was still living in Yenga, we started cleaning the drainage along here, and I think you attended one of them that time. Keura was still IGP, and so we came out as a community to clean one of the roads. And like you said, it's just do the work.
Just get on with it.
Yeah, get on with it, do the work.
See, a lot of the guys, the engineers and stuff, when they low-level people, they don't have any tarmac wet mix to put in the potholes. They don't have, so they sit around all day doing nothing. And yet, as you say, they could put them out and clean out some drainage channels and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Wow. And what is a high moment for you in your leadership, you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there can be many high moments and there can be low moments. I'm always happy when I get feedback. Rachel McGoola's sister worked for me, Hannah. There was a little sister, and Hannah has sickle cell, and she's like middle-aged now. And Hannah, I employed her as a kid. When she came out of college, I remember she was scribbling, writing newspaper articles. I think she was still in university, and then I employed her. And she subsequently went on to work for Bank of Uganda, and then she was working for the East African Development Bank, or one of the banks. Now she works for MasterCard in Kigali. So she's a very high achiever. And she'll still tell me, she says, I learned so much from working for you. Because she was part of the team when we built up the hospital. So I worked with some of those girls. Dr. Marianne Cannon is another lady. She's now, her father was a pilot, he was quite well known. And Marianne, she now runs a big program down in the Philippines on TB. And so those ladies who are now, they'd be getting on for 50 now, like 45, 50 type of age group. They'll still come back to me and say, you really taught us a lot, and we were part of your team. And then they went on to greater things. So that sort of feel good about that, that sort of thing. Because it's about people.
Yes, yes. So talking transitions, how does one prepare? How did you deal with moments, with transitions?
My life has been all transitions. So, you're probably talking to older people and then they've been doing something and then they transition to retirement. I don't have any interest in retiring, but your life is in seasons. So, you kind of season, and you get older as you go through.
Yes.
The young man here, he's at that stage in his life. Young lady here as well, you see. So you automatically will transition, from being a student to being a young professional to, different seasons of your life. For me, sometimes I have being intentional in terms of making those transitions, because it was a very intentional transition to go from being settled and comfortable in Northern Ireland to going to the Luweero Triangle. I mean, that was a massive transition. And I sort of imposed it on my family as well, because they came with me. There was no problem with the children, but it was a tough one for my wife at that time. Although, she got through it. So I tend to be intentional. After I did the Chiwoko Hospital, as I say, I got cancer. I had to make a decision to come back again, because I didn't have a roadmap. I will come to Uganda and I will stay here for 30 odd years. Well, after I finished the first project, I was looking for what I would do, and I could easily have gone back, and we were living in England at that time, and there was a big demand for sort of GPs, and I could have had a nice job there. But I didn't want to do it, because it was I had experienced so much while I was in Uganda. I didn't see how I could go back and just be part of a very settled society, when all this was going on here. So ultimately, that was what drove me back here. And when I came back here, I had a job to start with, but I didn't feel that was it wasn't really my thing to be treating expatriates. So I had to make a decision. So I had to step out of my comfort zone, start a new thing. And, one thing led to another. I would say then for about 25 years, I would start another hospital or another clinic or something like that. So it wasn't so much a transition as building. But then certainly when I sold the majority shareholding, that was a transition, and that's the most recent one. So then that was the deciding, what do I want to do? And by that stage, you form certain principles. I've been in Uganda long enough to say, well, am I going to build blocks of apartments? So am I going to do, that sort of business? And it didn't interest me. And I had analysed by that stage that, what I was really sort of, I would be a sort of developmental entrepreneur. So someone who's trying to do various entrepreneurial businesses that will have an impact on the society. So that guided me in terms of what I sort of, first of all, had to get a piece of land. And, there's another thing about transitions and about starting things. Sometimes conditions have to be, you have to have the right conditions for it. So a big precondition for me was to get land that wasn't going to argue with squatters on. So that one I got, and that really then I didn't, on the farming side, I wasn't really sure exactly what I would do. It was a nice piece of land with rolling hills, but it was bush. I mean, it wasn't a developed farm at all. I was like, what do I do? I grow maize. I knew farmers had done maize. But then you sometimes learn by your mistakes. I did grow maize, but then my farm's on hills. So it's harder to grow maize on hills than it is on level ground if you're going to be on a large scale. Mm-hmm. And, then I began to, as you go forward, you learn more stuff. So I started to learn about coffee. And coffee was something that I just felt was much more relevant to what I was doing, but also to Uganda, with so many coffee farmers, and it's a cash crop, and a large crop for export as well. So I've definitely, in my farming journey, I've far more coffee now. I'm hoping to do certainly 1,000 acres of coffee. I think I've got about 800 acres of coffee. And then during that time, I've already been, playing around with, the altitude make it better for Robusta coffee, but I've got an Arabica clone that seems to be doing quite well as well. Yeah, so some parts of your journey are intentional. You come to a point when you have to maybe retire, or your contract's finished, or you've sold a business or something like that. Then you sit down and say, what drives me? What is what's going to press my button? And some people just want to, if they get some money, they're like, well, I'll do a world cruise, or now in 2024, I'm definitely going to do a bit more traveling than I've been doing the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID, nobody travelled, and then I've been absorbed in the farm. So I'll do a bit more traveling because I've got a daughter and her grandchildren in Ireland. I've got a granddaughter who's at boarding school in South Africa. There's coffee stuff. There's that I want to do in London. We also have a small boutique hotel in Zanzibar, so we can go there sometimes. So I'm going to be more intentional in that, because also I can run business from virtually. So it's very easy to go on a Teams meeting. It's not maybe just as good as meeting a person face to face, but it's very convenient. Yes, so sometimes even in Kampala, you'll have meetings virtually because of the traffic. So I can do it from South Africa, I can do it from other places, and I want to really try that because I've done quite a bit of it from the farm. If somebody wants to meet me, and I can meet them there in Kampala. So I think, changing technology also enables us to do different things as well. But I would say the main thing would be to decide who you are, what is your sense of the purpose in what you're doing. Not just somebody says to you, do coffee farming or grow trees or do that, because you'll get halfway down the line after that, and then you'll find, there's no market for trees, or my coffee all got coffee wilt or something. Yes, so I think you have to be the one who commits. Yeah.
Wow. So what I'm hearing, and be a lifelong learner also. It doesn't stop. And my final question as we wind down, is there another book inside you?
There's a couple more. I wrote The Man with the Key Is Gone a long time ago, and then it went out of print. And in fact, but then I got it copied and I've edited it. So I'm sort of thinking I would release it again. Mm-hmm. And then there was another one that I wrote called How Deep Is This Pothole? Which I only released it in a limited way. And then I'm not that satisfied with it. I have redone it. It's totally different. But the idea is that The Man with the Key Is Gone, covers up till about 93, 94. Then there's another one that covers for the next maybe 15 or 20 years. And then there's another one after that I need to do, which would cover the politics and the farming and stuff like that. So I do want to do probably 3 because it's too long as one book. And then I want to trial it on probably maybe the local market, and maybe then do it on Amazon. And I don't know. Everybody's releasing books these days. It seems like everybody who retires has a book. Quite interesting actually reading. But I most recently read To Know a Malice.
Wow. So as we close today, if you were talking to a leader that's thinking of transitioning, what's the one word you would tell them?
Understand your purpose. Understand what you want. And be intentional. And take advice as well, because sometimes, especially financially, people, a lot of people don't have a lot of money for retirement, and they think, I will do this and I'll make, but a lot of then they might just lose their money. So I think they certainly be open to financial advice as well.
Thank you so much for your time and for those words of wisdom. Take advice, be intentional, decide your purpose. Thank you so much for listening to us, and tune in again when we'll bring you another guest for the Footprints podcast. Till then, bye-bye.